All right, everyone. Hello. This is Diamond Rivera, and this is a new series called Let's Talk About It, Ep.2. And the guest that I have over here next to me, representing DC, is the one and only Amanda Grace. Thank you, Amanda, for
Hello.
coming on.
Hi. Thanks
Absolutely.
for having me.
Hello. Absolutely. It's interesting. Of course, most people know you now for this viral video, but actually, me and you have talked, and we've actually been in the same circles. I think it was at the New York City Zouk Weekender, realizing as well just kind of your dance journey now, understanding where you started and where you are currently. So, of course, I want to thank you for coming on because, of course, we'll talk about the most interesting point or the interesting mark at this moment. But I think it's also important for people to understand how kind of it started till this point. So, Amanda, we've talked as well, but kind of fill us in before we get to this viral video of who's Amanda Grace? How did you start or kind of get involved into the dancing?
Yeah, the video, while I made it totally unplanned just in
Mm-hmm.
my car, it's been years building up to that point.
Yes.
So I started dancing in 2017. I
Mhm.
started dancing salsa and sensual bachata in
Yes.
St. Louis. And those were my main two dances. I dabbled in lots of other dances, but those were my main two dances. And I was completely obsessed from day one, from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 2 years ago, I was introduced to Zouk and started dancing Zouk, and slowly kind of stopped dancing as much other dances.
Yeah.
And then about 6 months ago, I moved to DC to be able to be in a city where I could dance Zouk and train regularly and properly all the time. So that's what I've been doing since I got here. And I'm there missing bachata. I think of bachata like my analogy is the toxic ex-boyfriend. You think you miss sometimes and you remember all the good times and how much you loved him and think maybe you want him back, and then you call him and then the next day you're thinking like, what is wrong with me? What did I do? Why did I do that? This person has not improved themselves, so they cannot move on. And every time I go out into a bachata social, it's like this experience of, wow, I don't miss it at all. And every time I go out, it's worse and worse and worse. And then on Sunday, I just had this moment where I looked around and I was like, wow, what am I doing here? Things that were always a problem have gotten so bad to the point where I was actually, I had the thought cross my mind while I was there and being hurt. Like, if I'm hurt enough, I can't dance Zouk, and I'm risking that to be here when this is the environment and this is what I'm risking that for. And so I just left. And, I had a few other girls that were there that night, did the same thing. Two of my other friends that were there were injured as well. One of them, the same kind of injury that I was experiencing. Wow. And one of them left and drove hours to another city to go to a Zouk social. So my experience on Sunday was not unique in any way, but I just was feeling so heated in the moment that I wanted to put this out. And I had no plans to post this other places. I didn't post this anywhere else. This was for my Facebook friends on Facebook, but it just kind of
it's just sky
all over the world.
I mean, hey, but
people in my inbox, women, even messages. I got hundreds and hundreds of messages, mostly women from all over the world. I've got this girl from Nairobi, this girl from some remote part of China. I didn't even know they dance sensual bachata, messages in other language that I need to translate. It's crazy.
Man, and see, just hearing that as well is very interesting because you're realizing so many people share the same story. Not just share the experiences and the stories, but realizing it's from all over the world because this is a reality. Even though we go and have fun and we love to dance, again, I tell everybody, my experience is not yours because what you're saying is specifically, and we'll get into more of the technique and timing and everything, but specifically right now, the injury part. I was told one of the craziest stories was in the Stardust Ballroom. A friend of mine who's in the MOB was injured, literally, I think, fractured her neck when somebody dipped her and dropped on her with all of their weight. And
Yeah.
to realize the lasting effects and realizing, yeah, the problem is the technique, the timing, the understanding of what you're doing. Because, first of all, not just the dips, not just the unwanted tricks, but the unwanted advances. I mean, that's the biggest gripe I hear from many females specifically. Do not get me wrong, males as well, but I'm talking specifically of females telling me of how many bad dances they've had compared to good dances.
Yeah, and that injury is pretty infamous, like a traumatic brain injury in 2018. And that was the year in 2018 that I had my L4, L5 crush
Mm.
dancing Sensual Bachata. At the time, not knowing. Now, honestly, looking back, I don't even know if anyone could have defended themselves against what happened. But with an improper dip in Sensual Bachata is what happened to my back. And I've suffered the effects of that still to this day, because these injuries, those types of injuries, they don't go away. So,
Yeah.
when you're taught to dip someone, you understand that for a really, really deep dip that you're going straight back and you're facing each
Yeah.
other, her pelvis needs to be able to extend forward and her chest needs to be able
Yes.
to open up before she can go back. So there's some preparation involved and some space that the body is going to need to move to be able to execute that safely. What the guy
Yeah.
who did me did is he held my lower back tightly against him, and with no prep, pushed straight back on my shoulder. So because my body had no room to go forward
Yeah.
and my chest had no room to expand, my L4, L5 was completely crushed under the weight of his body pushing it down. And this is somebody not only that is big, but I'm 5'2". So when you're talking about the direction of
Yeah.
energy from above you coming down on your
Yeah.
spine, it's very easy to seriously injure somebody's spine. So my two discs,
Mhm.
L4, L5, were crushed together, and the vertebrae have discs that have fluid in them. The fluid
Wow.
squirted out into my spine against my sciatic nerve. So now I have sciatica, which causes
Wow.
like lots of fun things, pain and shooting, electrical impulses, numbness in my right foot, which really interferes sometimes with dancing. And it's a lifelong injury that I've done years of physical therapy for. They've recommended some spinal surgery, but I declined having my discs fused together as I am
Mhm.
a dancer and enjoy having my mobility. So yeah, it was really a nightmare situation. And after that happened, I took a lot of private lessons
Mhm.
in defensive dancing specifically.
Yeah.
How do I defend myself when this is happening, when this is happening, when this is happening, when things are going wrong? What do I do? With that, with his size and him holding me and pushing down, I don't know that I could have gotten out of that. But now I know much better other things that are going wrong that I can protect myself in. And
Mhm.
Sunday night I was using a lot of that, but I
Yeah.
also had this feeling of, why do I want to be defending myself? Like,
Defensive.
I'm not
Yeah.
even in a self-defense class. This is just
Yeah.
fun. Because when you're in that
Mhm.
state time to defend yourself, you're not in a state where you can relax. And
Mhm.
following, the beauty of following to me is about that state. And I
Yeah.
can't really be in that state if I need to be defending myself the whole time.
It's true. I mean, like it's definitely a reality because that story we were just talking about, my friend Jennifer was that person to actually be the person having a traumatic brain injury from just a dance. But that is the lack of knowledge and technique that someone does. And they put you in these positions. And me as a videographer, people don't realize the footage I put out is cool, but the footage I don't put out is concerning. People don't realize all of the footage that I've never put out because I'm the one then reaching out to dancers privately, like, hey, I saw this happening. I'm sorry I didn't understand it at first. Just let me know if you're uncomfortable. Let me know next time. Give me a social cue because I don't want this experience to be your last experience. But again, from your experience of this happening over and over and over, to go to an event and actually be on the defensive,
Yeah.
that right there should show there is concern. And the
Yeah.
thing is this, many instructors that I know have that I've seen who have taught proper technique also teach the topic of boundaries, because I think that's also a huge issue, because especially with, and I'm not going to lie, in New York, there was a time bachata wasn't even a thought. It was an afterthought. It was a break song. And now we have socials dedicated to it. But originally in New York, even though they say bachata is bachata, when in terms of traditional Dominican from bachata from DR coming here, modern, whatever you want to call it, it was a different feeling. Don't get me wrong, there were some creeps, just be honest. But the level, and when things came of sensual bachata, I think that was also an issue, because people are teaching and not understanding what they're teaching. You can
Yeah.
teach a combination in a body roll, but can you also teach someone to understand that a hand doesn't go on the ass, it goes on the back, it goes in the middle? Like, we have to understand is that the way teachers are instructing, and the ones that can only disagree are the ones that not doing it correctly. Because if you're
Yeah.
doing
I think a lot of people underestimate how much technique is required to do some of the things in these dances, and they don't want to invest the amount of time and energy and money that it really takes to properly learn these very advanced techniques. And so they think, maybe you went to a workshop on something at a congress, and then they think, oh, I was trained in that. But you can't get your training in 1 hour at a
yes,
workshop with hundreds of people in the room. It's going to take a very long time. It's going to take years of
yes.
dedication, probably daily dedication over many, many years.
Mhm.
And combined with good instructors and your own work ethic and lots of other things. And people, they don't want to do that. They don't want to put in that
Yes.
effort. And that's fine. Not everyone needs to be a professional dancer. Not everyone needs to be an advanced dancer. But the thing is, if you're at a level where you're more beginner, lead beginner moves. Lead from the
Yes, thank
basics. I will
you.
be happy to dance, basic things. And I have no problem with that. I'm not saying don't dance with beginners, but you need to recognize where you are and you need to dance at that level and use things that are within your vocabulary that you have mastered or that you're close to mastering when
Mhm.
you're social dancing, because it's not fair to use the social dance partner as your practice dummy while you try and learn it. Like, no, you do that with your instructors in a controlled environment where they can make sure things are safe and help people.
No, it's definitely true. And for me, then seeing now how the scene has really changed, and we've even talked about it with COVID. Maybe a lot of the advanced or intermediate, or the ones that we feel comfortable dancing with, a lot of those leads maybe are no longer around, or maybe
Yeah,
not in the same
they
capacity.
disappeared.
And there's a new generation of dancers and instructors. I'm letting you know, because I've seen it. Your
I've heard
scene
them
is
called the
different, and
animals.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Not everyone, but I've seen a scene 2, 3 years ago is not the same scene now in terms of just the faces, but also
Yeah.
seeing more and more people take one class at a social and try to do that same move with everyone they dance with. But also, it's just when they see the sensualness, or they see the body chemistry, they want to implement that with everyone, and that also is a factor in why things are not comfortable on the dance floor. I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny here. We got Chinky Cat saying, if you're a beginner, lead beginner moves. I totally agree. As well,
Yeah.
here we have Vladi here saying there are fundamental issues on some teachers too. Because
Yeah.
again, I think too, we've seen too many teachers, in my opinion. I've seen people train maybe 1 year, 2 years. And don't get me wrong, it's different for everyone, but
Yeah.
I've seen a lot more people that I have to honestly say, you know, even some artists say, how are they teaching? The way they're teaching is not fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
It feels more
Absolutely.
like choreo or steps than when I ask you, how did you get into that? Or what's the count for that? And you can't give me an answer?
Yeah. Being an instructor requires so much training, but you don't need any training to be an instructor, right? Anybody can just say that they're a dance instructor and can start having, dance classes. And so one of the reasons that I literally changed my entire life to move here is to train properly. And people don't
Yes.
really realize the amount of, and I'm not talking about Central Bachata, I'm talking about Zouk, but
Yeah,
but it's the
absolutely.
same for Central Bachata. If you want to be a Central Bachata instructor, you're going to have to put in serious work and years to be a proper instructor. And people are not doing that. A lot of people, it's just the training is not there.
Yeah.
And then also there's the other factor of dance training and learning how to be a teacher are two different things. And
Yes.
so not everyone has that skill set or knows how to obtain that skill set. And so they're learning those skills on the job in their first years of teaching. And for some people, it can take a really long time to learn those skills. And some people, they never learn those skills.
It's true. It's interesting too. We have Pierre Henry here from London, from the UK area, saying it scares me the number of teachers think that dips and tricks are socially acceptable moves to do on a busy social dance floor with total strangers in the dark. I can't tell you how many people I've filmed that have do not understand spatial awareness.
Yeah.
When you're dipping someone, if you attempt to do it and do it correctly, you should understand your surroundings. You're not, I wouldn't dip I personally don't really like dipping, in my personal opinion, a lot. For me, even if I choose to do it, I'm going to look at my surroundings, make sure no one's behind me, make sure no one's on the side of me, give that spatial awareness, because I've seen people lift someone up and someone's back is hitting someone's face. And I'm like,
yeah.
That's another concern of mine as well. I mean, for me, a question I have for you, Amanda, is when having those moments of those uncomfortable moments, was there a moment of just like the shock of it, or was it like an instant reaction, like I just got to get out of here, like you said on
On
that night?
Sunday?
Yes. Or just
Yeah.
in besides Sunday, but also other moments that you've seen it happen, like you said, were they kind of like, did it hit you square on, or was it like, all right, what
Yeah,
am I
yeah. I
doing?
had a few like key moments that were pushing me in this direction. The last so this weekend I only went to the social on Sunday. I didn't do the full event. I just went to a social dance Sunday night because it's not so far away. It's like 45 minutes away. But the last bachata festival that I properly did, where I went to do the whole weekend and do everything, was Bachateando. And Bachateando was a really eye-opening experience for me because I was really looking forward to that event, and
Yeah.
what happened there, what it so turned me off from dancing bachata anywhere really. Just what I was seeing, the lack of technique, the dangerous leading, the groping, just the entire vibe. It was really just not my thing anymore. The first night I had some guy put my hand in a social dance in shadow position, put my hand on his hard on. When I said that in the video, I was talking about like a literal experience,
Yeah.
and we were in shadow position and he used my hand to scoop up, and I think he's playing with the styling, and then when he brings it down, he puts it right on his crotch. And this type of thing is not happening in other scenes.
Like,
something like that would never, ever, ever happen in the salsa room. In Zouk, I had one person send me a rude message one time. No one has ever physically done anything like that. And then I had other instances at Bachateando of the same type of behavior. Someone was dipping me in a really scary way, pushing down. And so when I came up out of the dip, I said, thank you very much. And I hugged him. I go to leave this dance, and he grabbed my arm to stop me and was like, stop, where are you going? Like people grabbing on each other and just really aggressive, aggressive sexuality that is really intense and uncalled for and just disgusting. So in other scenes, things like that are few and far between, and people will be like, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah.
But there, it's like the norm. It's like a normal thing that happens at a big bachata congress. It's not something rare in the bachata room. So I kept leaving Bachateando the whole weekend. I kept leaving to go to the Zouk socials in Miami. It'd be this little bitty social. It'd be like 20 people in some random little tiny studio somewhere. And I would go in and I'm on my guard, because I just had some guy that was shaking me in on my whiplash, and I had some, person touching me in somewhere. I'm on my guard, and you have some guy come up to you like, hi, I'm Steve from the Bay Area. What's your name? Can I have the pleasure of this dance? And they're dancing with you like that. Like the approach of everything, the vibe of everything, the atmosphere is just entirely different. And then also the level of technique. And it's not that like, oh, Zookers are advanced dancers. There's tons of beginners, and there were there too. And the beginners are practicing their beginner things. That's why it's safe, is because there's more of a focus put on like, let's operate with where you are right now.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be wherever you are right now, and let's dance there. And you can still have a really enjoyable time dancing with wherever you are.
Man, and but also realizing too, even just besides that experience, going way back, I think it was your first introduction into Zouk was at Future Zouk, and you
Yeah.
were actually going to a Sensual Bachata room there originally. So I mean, what was that experience like for you? Actually, kind of seeing Zouk, and what
Yeah.
feeling really did it give you?
It was the beginning of the end, man. That walk through the Zouk room was the beginning of the end. I went up to Chicago to see a friend, and he said we were going to the Future Zouk Congress. And I said, what is Zouk? That's some like hippie shit. I don't know what that is. I don't want to go there. And at that time, I was dancing lots of mambo and
Okay.
bachata. And so those were my main two dances. And at that point, it was more bachata than mambo. So he said, we're going to the Sensual Bachata room in the Future Zouk Congress. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, great. Let's go. So at Dance Center, to get to the Central room, which they had like the first time, you had to walk through the Zouk room to get
Yeah.
to that room. And when I walked in, it was late and it was some trancey set. And I just never seen anything like that in my life. The vibe was completely
Mhm.
different than the vibe in the bachata room. Like I felt a
Yeah.
different vibe when I walked in. And like there was this girl right when I walked in the door, and she's going back in this like back half of her blowout, and her mouth is like open and her tongue is a little bit out, and I see her eyes, and I'm just like, what is this? What is
Yeah.
happening here? And so I just went up to someone, the guy I was with. He was like, oh, the bachata room's over here. I was like, you go to the
No.
bachata
Yeah.
room. I need to figure out what this is.
Yeah.
And so I just went up to some guy and I put my hands out. I was like, can we dance? And I had no idea what it was. I didn't know the basic stuff. I knew
Mhm.
nothing. And I just fell in love like hard right
I
away.
mean, hey, even Courtney here, Courtney Matthews says Future Zouk was good to her. The rooms were different. I mean, hey, it all it takes is that one moment, that one experience to change everything. And that happened to me. I'm going to Zouk events in New York around last September, October. Like, it was a life changer because I'm so used to. But what's interesting is something that I find very, very like it's crazy to hear is you and so many people have told me they have went from salsa to bachata to zouk, and then after that, everything else is obsolete. And then, literally having a friend of mine's who was like a diehard bachatero, was part of like franchises, traveling everywhere every year, and to literally said he went to one event and he never went back to another bachata event. And I was like, and I asked him why, and he said, "Dude, the environment is different." And he even said he felt uncomfortable dancing with certain people. And I'm like, it goes both ways. That was an example of like, hey, this is a problem universally because you're so used to hearing it from women, honestly, but then hearing
Yeah.
it also from men. Yes, this is a reality. We love our communities no matter what. But when there is a problem, yes, we can speak about it. It's okay. Who just
And
like
it's like, how do people react if there's a problem? Because what I've seen with the reaction for the Central Bachata scene is kind of like, hey man, that's the way things are here.
yes, of
So
course, it's the status quo.
accept it or don't, whatever. That's kind of the attitude. But with Zook, it's a different attitude. I posted something a few months ago. This Zuker messaged me. I met him at a festival, and he messaged me asking me out, and I said no. And he was acting a little crazy. He called me like
Oh,
a bitch, and he said women don't deserve good men. And I said, don't message me or come up to me if you ever see
yeah.
me in person. And he said, or what? So the experience was a little bizarre and threatening, and I think this person's crazy. So I
Yeah.
posted this, and then the reaction, what this was my first experience like this in Zouk, and the reaction is what was eye-opening, not his behavior, but the
Mm,
reaction is what was eye-opening. I
yes.
had everybody telling me, like in my inbox, people not just in my city and not
Mhm.
just in that city, but in every city, saying like, this person is not welcome at my events.
Mm,
This is absolutely unacceptable. Like, who is this?
yeah.
And some people, they just wanted to know who it was so that they could watch him at other events to make sure that he wasn't being aggressive or dangerous to other women. Like, the reaction overwhelmingly was, everyone was like, this is not okay. And this was just messaging. This wasn't even something physical that happened. Nothing physical happened. It was just some like weird, nasty comments. Whereas when something happens in the bachata scene, it's kind of like, man, again, why is this always happening every weekend? But when it happened in the Zoot scene, or not even happened because it was just messaging, but when it was even indicating that something might happen, people's reaction was like, absolutely not, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, and that's the thing is that, like you said, it's far and few between, but it does happen. But realizing how much more rampant it is in bachata, and like we've talked as well, you've been dancing about 5 years, so you understood also when 2020 to 2021, 2022, the same people you probably saw those years back are probably not around or not in the same capacity. So you're seeing a new generation of dancers that literally will just go to a class and try to do everything they did in that class with someone, or think just a few classes is going to get them performing, or even just feel like they have the wherewithal to just do all of these dips and tricks, because not every follow has the same size, has the same feeling, has the same, just that connection. And you have to, social dancing is about socializing and connection, not about having a performance, not about trying out the latest trick you learned in a 45-minute class. I mean, and I've seen it. And again, Amanda, for me, talking to you, I appreciate it because, hey, what you've talked about has hit the masses. And it's unfortunate that has happened so many times before, but there has been a status quo of kind of, all right, just move on to the next one. Hopefully things work out. But for me, it's like I'm actually talking to organizers, talking to them privately when they ask me, all right, going forward, what are things you think we should change? Because, hey, when we have these conversations, again, you know what the difference is? You're a consumer. So the thing is, consumers have a control on who they choose to invest in. And when organizers are doing better and implementing improvements within their communities, and instructors specifically are implementing boundary lessons on top of the combinations they want to teach and techniques, that's what helps. Because like you said, when you're learning, most of the times in classes, it's learning the combination. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the ones that are doing it right. We're talking about the ones that aren't doing it right, and there are a lot of them. But like what happens is, like you said, is the status quo of things just stay the same. And
it
for
got
me,
worse. It didn't stay the same. It got worse. It got so much worse. Absolutely. And I think like there's another factor that kind of gets overlooked is things got really, really hard for professional dancers and for instructors with COVID. And I'm seeing some things that I think might be a side effect of that being hard financially. Because I have a friend, she's actually my friend, and one of her students, he takes privates all the time, and his his technique is really not there. He's really dangerous dancer. So I'm talking to her about a student specifically, like, man, what's going on in these privates? Because she's a great teacher. So I'm like wondering what is happening, you know? And he is somebody that it's going to take him really, 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 really long time. And so what I said is, you know, you got to like either be real with him about what he should be leading socially right now, where he is, or you got to cut him loose and let him go because this is your name too, right? So sometimes instructors have to be honest with a student, like, okay, so you're working on this type of movement. Maybe right now we are just working on that together, and you don't lead this yet socially on other people until you've reached a level where it's safe and comfortable. So we're not giving up. We're gonna continue to work on it, but we're just not ready to do that socially. And I don't think instructors like to have these frank kind of conversations because especially if a student's like their cash cow and they're taking privates from them all the time, they don't want to make them hurt or offended or angry, and then they stop taking lessons with them. So I think there's a lot of fear. People have fear of being real and being honest and being direct about what is actually going on. And I think if people were a little bit braver, then it could be a little bit safer to actually tell people like right now you're not ready to do this socially. Let's keep
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, because to be honest with you, don't get me wrong. I've been at social salsa socials when there's people that are really not on timing, and there's people that I've seen that I've just let them slide, let them have enjoy the dance. But I've also seen people that have literally stopped someone mid song and left because they felt uncomfortable, they didn't want to dance. And again, it's to each his own. Everyone reacts differently. You can't tell someone how to react, but at
Yeah.
the same accord, when something is uncomfortable, it is like I tell people, it is okay to say no. What I'm saying is not wrong. It's just that when somebody's saying it out loud and outspoken, some people have a topic or a talk about it, and that's great because again, like we've talked as well, a lot of times I've seen in bachata specifically, dancers feel like, hey, let me just finish this dance. Let me
Yeah.
just, get this over with. And for me, it's like, hey, no, you don't
Yeah.
have to keep going because the moment
Yeah.
you show that person, I tell you this: if a person is like that and they dance with 20 people, and those 20 people don't want to dance with them, a lot of times they're probably not going to go back to that event. But also,
Absolutely.
too, I think it's due to it's a instructors. If you're teaching people and they're going out and remember, they're representations of you. Whatever you teach them, they're going to put out there. So when somebody incorrectly dips you and has wrong hand placement and you get hurt and you get injured and you ask them, who taught you?
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing is then when somebody tells you who they taught by, and that makes you reconsider that
Yeah.
person's value because, hey, but I also think, again, is more or less that some teachers are willing to have conversations. Some teachers are not.
Yeah.
They just want to have the class. But again, the more and more you don't implement, when you should be able to mix and balance a conversation with the education along with it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't teach someone, how many times I've seen in a class and I'm filming it and I'm seeing someone like literally be befuddled when somebody asks them to count. And in my mind, I'm like, you're a teacher. And this is stuff that I've seen and I've talked to teachers privately because I don't have to tell you on Facebook that I've talked to a teacher private. I think two people just feel that it's not real if it's not on Facebook. If I didn't tell everyone that I told somebody this and it didn't happen. No, I have the same conversations I have with you. I have conversations with people from other places, and I'm like, this is a reality because there's no way this person from the other side of the world and you have the same story and I cannot be lying.
Yeah.
There's a truth. There's truth to that, and for me now, really now, understanding that experience you've had recently, but for you going forward, for people who really, if they say, hey, what can we learn from this, from your experience? What are things specifically, if you're talking about instructors? I know we've talked about it, but definitively, what are those major points? And we're talking about technique, we're talking about timing. What are those major points that you want instructors to understand going forward when
Yeah.
teaching?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's all on the instructors. Like, I think the solution,
Mm-hmm.
if possible, is threefold. Individually, there's things that individuals need to be doing, just social dancers, students. There's
Yes.
things that instructors need to be doing, and there's things that organizers need to be doing. But for the teachers, I think one thing is continuing your training, no matter what your level is. The
Mm-hmm.
best dancers in the world are always training. If you think that you don't need more training, that's a huge sign that you absolutely need more training, right? It
Yeah.
shouldn't be something that is ending at any point. Even if you're a teacher that's been teaching for a very long time, like your own development and continuing that is really important. But for new teachers, more than anybody else, obviously, to make sure that you are solid in whatever it is that you're teaching. And so there has to be a little bit of letting go of your ego, because I had a lot of
Mm.
instructors message me after this video, and they're in my inbox saying, oh man, I totally agree with you. This is what I tell my students all the time. And I'm thinking, you
Mm-hmm.
tell your students? Dude, I was talking about you. You're the one I'm talking about. You're like, I tell my students this all the time. And
Yeah.
that showed me they don't know. They don't
Yeah.
know that there's a problem. So I think like letting go of ego and having people around you who can be real with you, who care about you, and
Yeah.
can be real with you from a place of kindness to help you with your own technique, in your own teaching. And then teachers need to be being real with their student about what they're ready to lead socially and to follow socially, and what they still need to work on in the studio before they go do that in the wild. And then also, I think altering curriculum so that it's more well designed. Most schools, most teachers, they don't even have a curriculum, and that is completely
That is
unacceptable.
very that and that's a that it's that is one of the most honest comments I've ever heard.
Yeah, and then like with the curriculum, also I think students shouldn't be moving from one level to another level because they completed the level. You need to actually be ready for that. So maybe you have a student that they take your level 1 class 5 times. That's okay. Like
Yes.
that's okay. It's better that they do that than they just go to level 2 and the things from level 1 aren't there, because then you might have a student who thinks they're trained because they went through the full progression of the
Yeah.
curriculum, but they didn't actually master the things well enough to be able to lead or follow the things socially. So being real about graduation from one level to the next level, I think, is really important.
No, absolutely. So, really, for a question I have for you then is, would an idea of actually at congresses and festivals, would it make sense at congress and festivals, on top of having classes on body movement, footwork patterns, turn patterns, and etc., and partner work and everything in between, having an actual Q&A panel, having kind of those, because I've seen those even with teacher trainings like they do have and certifications, but actually having that class where you have 5 to 10 of those main artists or people within the community that people understand and trust, and actually have those conversations and understand, like, when somebody may be afraid to ask, is this correct? So actually, having that teacher tell them, no, this isn't correct, and that other people understanding, I think maybe that would help. Do you think something like that could actually be successful?
I think like that direct feedback is absolutely essential for dance progression, but I think a Congress is not the right environment. Like to me, at
Hmm.
Congress, the workshops
Yeah.
at a Congress are like for fun, right? Hopefully
Yeah.
they're fun. But that can't be where your actual technique and proper training comes from, because it's like a couple
Mm.
hours here and there and it's not
Yes.
enough. And there's too many people, there's thousands of people. The instructors, they can't give the people the type of individualized feedback that they need. And I think that finding a proper school, even if you have to move for it, like I moved here to have district Zoom train me,
Yeah.
sometimes you need to do that to find a proper school so that you can receive actual feedback at an individual level. But the Congresses, workshops, man, there's so many people in there.
Mhm.
And then the artists, they are feeling this pressure to show off and show like all their cool stuff. So the
Yeah.
workshop just ends up being something like some ridiculous demo kind of thing instead of like technique. We're going to learn technique.
It's true, because I've been in Congresses and I have seen, correct me, I would say not just correct me, but if this has happened to you, that you have been or seen a workshop that you probably don't get it fully, or the person next to you does not get it at all. And then they try to implement that in the social that night.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell what was taught in workshops. Even if I didn't go to them, I can tell what was taught because everybody's leading the same thing, kind of leading the same thing. Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, and for me as well, what I loved also just about bachata is that even with sensual bachata, you don't have to be 100% like tight knit. You can give space. I mean, you can do nice little turn patterns without just I just say doing too much, because you can tell when someone's doing too much when they're hitting the person next to them, when their follow or their lead looks scared. They're kind of like scaredly anticipating the next move. I mean, for me as well, if you're going to do a body roll, if you're going to help someone do it correctly, because especially just the dips alone. I mean, I say this, the less dips, the better, because you're taking away from the song 8 to 10 seconds, the max. I mean,
I love it. I love it. I just want it to be safe and comfortable. And it
yes,
can be, and it can feel so nice when it's done well. And I like big dances. And I
yes,
like to be able to use my whole body while I'm dancing. And so some of the movements that I like to others might look like really big or really dangerous. But
yeah,
when something's led and followed correctly, it shouldn't be feeling uncomfortable or bad in any way. if it is, that means something is not right because it's not supposed to feel like that. So, I think you have to be able to gauge your partner before you're
Yes.
leading something big. You need to be really connecting and you need to feel solid in the movements that you're doing that are more basic before you attempt to lead anything that's like big or complicated like that. But I definitely don't say like, oh, always dance little. It's not my style to just be like
Mhm.
planted up the whole night. I like to like move and have
Yes, no, of
big
course. I mean,
expression.
I definitely understand that, and that's something I really love with Zook, the flow of it. But what's very interesting here, the comment that I'm seeing here by Chinky is she says one of the things that is most difficult for me to hold my tongue, but I do because they're not ready to have that conversation, is when people who don't take classes say they will just take workshops at events, and that's how they learn. Because that is a reality. I have been to congresses and overhear conversations of somebody saying, I've never danced before. This will be the first time I've ever danced. I'm going to take all the workshops.
Yeah,
And then you see at congresses and socials when they're dancing with someone, and don't get me wrong, it's not always the newest people because a lot of times they're the ones kind of nervous to even be on the floor. It's a lot of those that think they understand fully what they're doing and they're just doing almost what the next person's doing because it looks good. And
absolutely.
and like you said, I think too is people have to have the awareness is that the body is not made to bend like that. Just like you said in the video, your body's not made to like
Yeah,
breaking a
that
pretzel.
the elbow goes this way. It doesn't go this way. Like that's not possible.
Yeah, and I'm like, the worst is when I can see the lead doing it, and he's counting. He or she is counting, and the person's looking at them, and they're like, "No, this isn't right. Like, I'm dancing with you, but what are you doing?" And I think more again is I think people should just have more understanding that it is okay if you do not feel safe, if you do not feel comfortable, it is okay to stop what you're doing
Yeah,
because it's sad is that many of them told me they don't do that. They don't say anything because they feel the community lashes out at them. And those
yeah,
people who lash out at them, I will say it, are cowards because in reality, if it was to happen to you, I definitely think you want understanding rather than bashing someone. Hey, if a teacher's not teaching well, all right, if a teacher has 20 students and all 20 students are telling me there's something wrong, I got to look into that. They can't all be lying. And if they all lying, I'm going to figure it out real soon.
yeah,
Because, for me, it's like you're having people from London, you're having people from Virginia, you're having people from Oklahoma right now who are on this, from Georgia, chiming in from Jersey, who really understand because, again, we love this art form no matter what genre and style. There are some really amazing moments. There are things that are life changing just for you, but there are also some dark moments. And then it's okay to talk about that because, hey, it's a reality for some, not for all, but for some. And,
yeah. And to let go of the fear, because I had a lot of women in my inbox saying like that it's like you came to my head and crawled around and you're saying exactly what I think. I would never say something like that because I would be afraid people will never dance with me again.
yes,
And they have this fear of being rejected by their community if they're vocal. But the fear is keeping the problem, you just kind of have to be brave and say what is true because if someone is never going to dance with you again because you say, hey, like I'm not comfortable with this, good riddance, man. I don't even want
yeah,
to
like
dance with those people. Good riddance. All right, bye. Next,
and it's funny. It's funny that you say this because we've talked and you're like most people I've seen. Or the cliche thing is you write the or you do this post and you say how you're quitting and you're kind of willowing in your pillow and sad, but you're really just happy. This is kind of a release. This is that exit moment for you of like,
yeah,
hey, I've been in this long enough that I can honestly and comfortably say I'm not comfortable enough and I'm okay to step away. Just like you said, is that it's not forever. Maybe there's someone you're very good friends with, you want to dance, but if this scene is just not your cup of tea, that's okay. That's
yeah,
why there's so many events and so many festivals. And it's okay that you may have it because you can have a bad experience at a festival, social, a freaking house party.
yeah,
But again, it's through your experience of what you want. And like you said, you went from salsa in St. Louis, and then you got into bachata and you got into zouk, definitely, especially in the DC area. and you working with District Zook, and the work that you're doing is great because it shows you've grown, because there's so many people, and we know this probably, there's so many people that are no longer in this community because they fully left because they didn't feel no one would listen and they didn't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And but when you tell people this, they're like, "What?" Like, no, the reason you don't know it because you don't see them.
I feel like everybody knows in the Sensual
No,
Bachata.
and
I
don't get
feel
me
like
wrong.
they
What I'm telling you is this: is that I've spoken to people as well that are really fresh, like those
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that are
Okay.
coming in. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the people that are really brand new into this and just enjoying the ambiance, enjoying the setting. They don't have that experience like some of us have had.
Yeah.
And for me, all I'm saying is that we need to learn more, because everybody will say, "Oh, you're just having a conversation." That's great, because that conversation, or what you've been doing and talking and people are listening, that's opening people's minds, that's opening their eyes a little bit more into saying, wow, the things I've been experiencing are wrong, they aren't justified, I can actually do something about it, and there are a collective of people that understand. Because
Yeah.
that's really what it is. If people did not fear judgment, there would be so many more people. But it's the craziest thing is we love one another. And I'm sorry I'm breaking the silence on things, but I've been in this long enough that I can say it. And I haven't been to every city. I've been to multiple cities,
Yeah.
but I can say, talking to people about their experience, and they love these experiences or these travels they've been able to do. But then when they talk about those dark moments, it's like, yeah, I don't talk to people about this because I don't think people care, or I don't think people want to hear about it because it doesn't glorify the image. But hey, just like the things we love, there's things that we hate. And the more and more we talk about the things that we hate and the things we don't like seeing, then people's eyes are opened up a little more. And then the reaction is a little bit swifter.
Yeah. And if you don't feel free to say what you think, there's a problem with where you are. Like, people who are in cults, you can't speak against a cult leader. That's a sign something's wrong.
Yes.
If you're in a good group, you should be able to express concerns when you have concerns. And if you're not allowed to because you're fearful they will disown you, then something's wrong with that picture. That's a sign that something is not exactly right.
But it's also, I'll tell you this, is that I've realized, and a big proponent of why a lot of things happen. I've met people that say they have danced because it saved their life. They
Yeah.
have went to classes because it was an escape from their reality at the moment. But what happens is sometimes when you're in that vulnerable state, because I'm saying this from experience of people who have had private conversations with me at socials. They have stepped away from dancing for 5 to 15 minutes and just wanted to have a conversation and asked me, is this understandable? Is this justified? When they have these experiences, and then they're like, is this a normal? Is this something I should expect? Like, how should I feel? And then to have them ask me that, and it shows us that if this person isn't teaching you that you don't do this, if they just teach you everything you do and nothing about you don't, you're not really learning. Because if they don't teach you that the hand doesn't need to be on the breast at all for any reason.
Yeah.
There
Definitely.
was no move. I don't know what move is that. And if you feel uncomfortable, it is okay to talk. But again, it's talking with you, it for me, I appreciate it because I'm not here about sensationalizing the story. I'm here about understanding the person and the experience, because
Thank you.
we understand what happened at that moment that made you create that. But for me, I know it's a lot more deeper than just that one moment. There was something that led to it. But really, lastly, I want to really now understand from you, stepping really into Zouk, and this was kind of far way back, but through moments that have really changed you ultimately.
Huh.
What are really just some feelings, though, some of the really experiences you've got from transitioning from one style to the next?
In the beginning of that transition, I was like Sensual Bachata's biggest defender, because when I
Mhm.
came to Zouk, I had a lot of people talking a lot of trash on Sensual Bachata, and I was always saying, like, hey,
Yeah,
it's not the dance, it's
it's
just
the
these people with
person.
the bad technique, or it's just these predators. Like, it's not the dance itself. The dance is beautiful. The dance does have proper technique. The dance is totally something you can lead and follow, because a lot of Zookers think it's like choreo. But I'm like,
Yeah.
no, no, no. If you're actually trained, or you're dancing with someone who's actually trained, like, it's not supposed to be those things.
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, I had like this defensiveness of like, that's not what this is. Like, you are
Hmm.
confusing it with the people who are a bad representation of it. And then, you know, as time went on and I felt differences in my body, I had to like look back on the years and how I felt. When I was dancing salsa, which was I was more into in the beginning before
Hmm.
I became more into bachata. My body didn't really hurt, you know. I
Yeah.
was wearing heels all the time for both those dances, so my feet were regularly hurting. I have little soreness here and there, but my body didn't really hurt. And then
Hmm.
when I started to dance bachata more, I was in regular pain. And I
Yeah.
really, at the time, didn't realize what it was. I didn't realize why that was happening. I thought it was because I was dancing so much, because I
Yeah.
was completely obsessed and I was dancing all the time, like every single day, dancing,
Yeah.
dancing, dancing, going to festivals, going everywhere I could all the time. I'm like an all or nothing person. Now I'm that way with Zouk. But when I was that way with bachata, I thought the pain was because I was dancing so much. And so I was
Hmm.
constantly icing things, and I was constantly
Mm.
taking ibuprofen and Advil and all these things. And now, like, I dance that much with Zouk, and it feels nice in my body. Like, obviously, you still
Mm.
have soreness when you've really been dancing for a long time, or if something goes wrong. But generally, like, day to day, I'm not in pain in my body. And so, looking back on it, I kind of realized that
Hmm.
I was having like kind of, I think, some whiplash sometimes in my
Yeah.
spine,
Yeah.
or
You're
these,
not wrong. You're not wrong.
yeah, like these little things that I didn't really notice at the time because I was so accustomed to it. It was happening so
Yeah.
regularly that it was only when those feelings went away, I realized like how nice my body felt and how nice things can feel and how much safer Zouk
Yes.
is because of the focus on the technique. Like, some stuff in Zouk can look really, really crazy. When you watch some
Yeah.
of the stuff, it's like, what in the
Yeah.
world? But it doesn't, or it shouldn't
Yeah.
feel bad in any way. It should feel really nice. Like, when something is led and followed well, it should feel like, yes, it should feel
Heaven.
like,
It should feel like
ah,
heaven.
yes, yeah. So
Yeah,
I
I
had
mean,
like a little bit of a hard time kind of letting go.
mhm.
And then I felt like I was missing bachata so much, especially
Yeah.
like the first year and a half, when I had started dancing Zouk and I was still dancing bachata. I felt like I missed it. And then
Mhm.
the past 6 months, I just feel like if I ever think I miss it and I go out, I'm like, I don't miss this. I don't miss this at all.
Hey.
Everything that I loved at one point in bachata, I have in Zouk, and the things that
Mm.
I don't love in bachata that it has become, I don't have in Zouk. So it's an easy
Yeah, and
transition now
hey,
for
and
me.
that and that's exactly what I love is again is the honest experience from you. Because when people are understanding that this is a reality of a person, they then start digging a little deeper and saying why.
Yeah,
Because there was also something that you said that I really keyed on was about the teachers, understanding why pros don't want to dance also. I mean, and this is a reality. And mind you, I made a post about that, as they call it, a meme about artists not interacting social dancing with non-dancers. And what
yeah,
I mean is we have awareness. We understand is that when we go to events, we're paying close to 100 to $200, 250 for a full pass. A lot of times to see our favorite performance. For
yeah,
me, even socializing or socialing is not just dancing, a conversation, just some type of back and forth in some form of fashion. But I'm also talking to professionals on the side when they're not dancing, when they're the ones that had just said no to a dance, and then they come to me and tell me why they did that, and realizing when they're saying, man, I'm not feeling, when you're holding your shoulder and you still got tech rehearsal the next day,
it's
and
not
you
working.
realize like my interaction with someone actually detrimental to my performance. They don't
Yeah,
tell you that. A lot of times they don't even show you that, because what it does is that it shows weakness to others when it's just in reality, hey, I went through I chose to dance with someone because I loved it, and for me, I just want to have that experience. That's great,
yeah.
you
Artists,
know.
they don't want to seem like some elitist snob, like, oh, I'm too good to dance with people. They don't want to seem like that. but at the same time, they're conscious of trying to protect their bodies, like especially Sensual Bachata follows. You know, they're trying to protect their body because the chance of injury is so high when you're talking about the Congress circuit and the environment there and the lack of training there. The chance of injury is very, very high. And some of the injuries are not just like a little pull. Some of the injuries are serious injuries, like we're talking spinal injuries. So they're risking their livelihood, they're risking their profession, they're risking like the ability to eat and pay their rent when they're dancing with someone that is dangerous. And so you often see like them hiding. They're like hiding away in a little area away from people, and people will think like, oh, they're snobs, but sometimes they're hiding because they're afraid and they don't want to be injured.
I mean, hey, and that's a reality. Some people who do not know that, yeah, a lot of times, if you're not seeing your favorite social dancer, your favorite pro that you just gave a standing O to, hey, don't take it personal. A lot of times
Yeah.
they're just with the people they're with and comfortable with, and I totally understand that. But also, for me, it's that still goes again. We wouldn't have this, really declining level or declining quality of artists, if especially you see it during the pandemic. The same artists, the same teachers, they're probably no longer around. They don't
Yeah.
come around as often, and that leaves a new kind of generation coming in. That, don't get me wrong, there's some that are learning correctly, but there's some that take a few classes. Boom, I can go to a congress and do this all night long. No, you can hurt people all night long. And the
Yeah.
reason I know that is because you realize I've seen people that have been left on the dance floor 3 hours straight because everyone actually talked amongst each other and said, do not dance with this person because they have literally hurt me and they possibly might hurt you. And that's to each his own. I've heard these conversations with people. And so it's not just, he said, she said, no, I'm talking to artists who are telling me, like, hey, we want things to change. We got to do better on things. And, again, and I think all of us can do better. And
And
also,
we
as yes,
go ahead.
absolutely. No,
And
and
got to be honest with people too, because like there was a guy recently I was dancing and I danced with him and I declined future dances with him. I
mhm,
declined several future dances with him because when I danced with him, it felt very dangerous and out of
mhm,
control, and there was a lot of force and pressure on my body.
mhm.
So I danced with him one song, and then when he asked me to dance like 3 times after that, I said no, thank you. And
Yeah.
then he came up to me and he said, at a social, he came up to me and he said, I get the feeling like you don't want to dance with me. And I said, no, I do not. And he
Yeah.
said, can I ask why that is? And I said, it doesn't feel safe or comfortable and it
Mhm.
feels like I'm going to get hurt. And he said, I was so surprised by his reaction because sometimes people will get very mad. He said,
Yeah.
huh, thank you for telling me. And he walked away. And I was like, wow, okay, this guy's mature.
Hey, there's some change, there's some growth in people. And as we've
Yeah.
talked as well from your experience, someone that talked to me as well and wanted to chime in is here and wanted to kind of actually talk about what he felt about that video that you put out. And of course, here I'm open for conversation. And again, I want to introduce everybody we have here, Mr. Vladi. Right now, you're on a flight. Right now, going to a flight. Am I correct?
Yes, I just passed TSA pre-check, so that's why I'm a little bit
Fancy.
late, and that's why I'm wearing this like
Yeah,
cap on it,
absolutely.
because I'm supposed to have it on at the airport, you know. So
No, absolutely. But Vladi, again, thank you for coming on. Me having this conversation with Amanda. You had reached out to me about actually talking with her, expressing how you felt, especially about that video. So the floor is yours, and I'd love for you guys to have a quick, at least, conversation.
well, first, thank you, Diamond, for having me here. Hi, Diamond. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Hello, good.
Um, I was telling Diamond, right, and a lot of my friends that after Viva la Bachata this weekend, which by the way was a total success. Your video popped out on Monday, and everybody just started sending me the video saying, "Oh my God, Vladi, look what they're saying about Viva la Bachata," and even some people that attended commented on it. And it's funny because some of the people that commented on it were trolling in the comments, but then they were telling me privately, "Bro, I had a blast. I can't wait for the next one. I already got my pass." So to me, it was a little bit confusing. But
Hmm.
to get to your point, I agree 100% with you. We have been having this conversation about the safety, the state of bachata. Um, I don't know what to call it. The way people are learning, the way they're executing moves, the atmosphere at bachata socials, congresses for a long, long time. You know, between artists, between organizers, between a school, studio owners, teachers, we've always been talking about it. And I was telling Diamond that one of the hardest things for us leaders of the community to do is to tell other people, hey, what you're doing is wrong,
Why?
right? Because I don't know if you remember when you were a beginner,
Yeah.
anything that was said to you was very encouraging to continue and for growth. And we have very sensitive people in all of the world right now. You know, like 30 years ago, we could just be like, you know, I come from a military background. So somebody can just tell me, shut up and do what I tell you. And I go, yes, sir. And I carry on. And I don't get offended or anything. But now that I've been outside of this world, I have told friends, yo, don't try this move. It might be hurtful. And then they're like, bro, like, what are you talking about? Why are you talking to me like that? Like,
Fuck them. Fuck them.
no,
People need to toughen up.
of
People need to
course.
toughen up, and we have to be real with other people because it's created a horrible situation when we're so politically correct. We're so nice. We're only encouraging. Like, we got to be honest.
It's trust me, I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, in one of your in your video, one of the comments was like, instructors maybe are not coming down for that long because they're scared of getting hurt.
Yeah.
That's that's a reality. Not only that, I mean, you know, like as an organizer, I try not to force anybody to not do anything they don't want. I hire my artists to be instructors, not to be social dancers, right? Your job is to go there, teach workshops, maybe do a show. And if you enjoy social dancing, and if we offer you good music and a good atmosphere, then come and enjoy.
Yeah.
A lot of the instructors were there. They dance for an hour, 2 hours. It gets hot, you know. And I don't know if you enjoy every single one of your dances, but there's a moment when you get to a point where dancing is love and it's also work and the line is blurred, and sometimes it's like I don't like this song but somebody asked me, you continue and you move, you go through it and you go through your hours to dance,
Yeah.
right? um, but getting hurt from follows from leaders, um, I don't, you only went for the social, right? You didn't take any of the workshops.
Just a social Sunday night.
I i would love to invite you to one of Jimena and myself's workshops or
Oh, I'm
classes.
done. I retired from bachata. I'm done.
We don't teach bachata. We just teach social etiquette.
Oh, okay. That's
You
excellent.
know, under under bachata moves.
Yeah. Excellent. Social etiquette, so important. Thank you for
But
teaching that.
but
Look,
it's hard because most of the people that that are that don't know how to execute moves are not the ones taking classes. Are the ones not taking classes.
yeah, or they only take the classes like at a congress, but they don't take regular classes, you know.
Look, we have a lot of people reaching out to us when they see our lineup of international, really, really good instructors. And they're like, hey, can I come teach for free? I'll pay for my own flight. I'll pay for my hotel. Please just put me on the flyer with them. And we're like, I've never seen you teach. Like, I don't know what you teach. Some of them, I've never seen them dance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how come we don't, right? And that's why our lineup is, in theory, if you compare our lineup to other congresses,
Mhm.
ours is very, very small.
Yeah.
Everyone else has like all the Avengers,
Yeah.
right?
Well, let me be clear that the problem that I experienced on Sunday night is not the fault of one festival or one instructor that was at the festival, right? this has been years building this problem. So what I saw on Sunday night at your festival is not something unique. It's what I've been seeing going out social dancing in bachata for years and years. It's getting worse and worse and worse. So it's not like that festival was worse than other festivals social dancing or something like that. And I'm not saying that at all. This is a problem that has been building for so many years, and instead of getting better, it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
I heard Diamond say a little bit, I was going through TSA in and out, I had to take him off. But one of the little pieces that I heard Diamond say is we have a new community of dancers because of the pandemic, right? Before the pandemic, we were all hooked on equally importance of breathing and dancing. You couldn't go a Tuesday night without dancing, regardless of where it was. You would go to H&M, and if they were playing reggaeton, fine, I'm soaking to that. I don't care, right? So, but because of the pandemic, we found out that, oh, I don't need dance to survive. So a lot of older dancers in the community left and are doing their thing, and now we have a new community of dancers, right? The other big, huge difference, right, between hello, am I
Yeah.
here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
hear
cut
you.
out a little bit.
Yeah. Let me
I
see.
cannot hear you, but
You can hear me?
can you?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, I cannot hear you for some reason.
I think
But
the
I can hear you.
settings.
okay, but in bachata, we have an entry point that is much lower than any other genre, right? For example, on TikTok, I'm there for everything but dance, right?
Mm. Are you able to hear us?
Okay,
You can
can
hear
you
me?
hear me now?
I can
I
hear
can
you.
hear I can hear you like a robot, but people are calling me
Oh,
like
okay.
crazy. I'm sorry,
That's okay.
but in um in bachata the entry point is very low, right? And like I was saying, on TikTok I don't ever get anything about dance, but the things that I keep
Mm.
getting viral is bachata dances, and I don't know why because I don't follow anything, and at the moment I see it, I scroll it because I don't want to see it, right? So bachata has is so viral and has like the entry point is just a three step tap. Your aunt is teaching it to you when you're 3 years old in the middle of the beach or the mountains, or your mom is cleaning the house while playing it, right? But people don't need to take classes to execute it. Execute it not at a correct level, but
Right.
just to do a basic step, all you do is two tap, two tap. Simple. While whenever you go to other styles of dance like souk,
Yeah.
I've I've never heard of a random souk party at a nightclub in Minnesota, right? Or in Russia or in Japan. But you do have that of bachata, of people that have never taken classes. So, for example, if I run an ad for my festival, right, in the entire United States, maybe 10% of the people that go have never taken a class. They didn't even know this existed. They're just people that listen to Romeo Santos and Prince Royce on the radio. And they go and they're like, oh, all I know how to do is to the left and to the right.
Yeah.
But look at what these people are doing. And maybe it's their first time taking a workshop or a class. And then they try to do it. And of course, it's going to be wrong
Yeah.
because to some of us, it takes us 5 years, 10 years of doing it every night, right? Going to different countries to practice and train. And there are people that have been doing it for 10, 20 years. But I think I think that's one of the things about bachata that makes a difference, right?
Yeah,
That
I speak about that in the video about how a lot of people enter it from a free class at a nightclub, and
Yes.
that's like how they're getting into the dance.
hold on 1 second. Diamond, can you continue the conversation? Let me reconnect my AirPods because
Oh, he can't hear us.
I hear you like a robot. Okay?
Gotcha.
Just let me disconnect and connect it real quick.
Gotcha. Amanda, are you able to hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we are having this conversation because again, this stuff is needed. This stuff is it's even whether you're an organizer, whether you're a dancer. Let's see, I think we're going to get them back on. But at least kind of heading into the conclusion of our talk, really. But I'm glad that we do have these conversations because usually it's just like a Facebook comment here, Facebook comment here. But when you actually talk amongst each other and understand the correlation, things can get a little easier to digest.
Yeah.
Because again, when you realize there's certain people that actually think the way you do and have been putting those efforts in. Claudia, are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Yay.
Yeah, so of course what you were saying, Vi, but really in totality, me and you have known each other many years. Back to Rhode Island, 2016, maybe even that time. And for me, we know, just like you're talking to Amanda, the scene that we knew 2016 to 2020 is not the same scene as 2022. And when people realize how far or how much they lost connection, and then when you get that back, people kind of want to fast track it. The ones that are coming in fresh, because again, you have to be honest. Bachata, it can be kind of and this is something Pierre Henry said, is the entry point is low. So when you hear or somebody just says, all I have to do is 1, 2, 3 step and keep following that, then they don't want to seek any more education about it. Then what you get is they come to a festival, no matter if it's Viva, no matter, I've seen it at all festivals. So there is no pinpoint. For me, it's about the context of understanding is that the people who are coming in new really have to get a lot better understanding of what they're doing, as well as the people who are still doing it, because you're also dancing with newer dancers. It's not just new leads, there's also new follows. So I think it's everyone universally has to have a conversation, just like you, Amanda, being a person that has said, hey, I'm leaving Sensual Bachata. I had a bad experience. You have a bad experience, but then having you, Vladi, here as a person who was partly owner of an event that hosted Sensual Bachata, having an honest conversation. Not many of us have this ever. We know that. We don't have this. Or we do, we talk in a hotel room. But actually having this conversation, people watching, like this is change in itself because it's realizing through a conversation we're actually more alike than we are different.
For sure,
Absolutely.
100%. And the efforts of Amanda making a video of this content of her experience is helping and it's gonna help the community grow, right? So we have to applaud that because not everybody that has a bad experience is able to speak. I've had bad experiences before, social dancing, and I have just been quiet, right? Because from the culture that I come from the way that uh, the position that I was in at the moment, wanting to be an instructor and being on the come up. I remember one of the times I was in one of my first festivals, um, like I had food in my mouth, like going in, and somebody was like, "Can you dance with me?" This was 6 years ago. Last week, I was with Jimena in New Jersey at an event, and some lady walked up to us and was like, "So who's gonna dance with me? Because I gotta get my $20 worth it."
Hey, Amanda, I know you wanted people to have some balls, but god damn, that's some balls there.
I hold on to Jimena so hard because she was about to stab this lady with her fork, right? Because me, being, I'm like, hold on 1 second, but she's like, why do people gotta be so disrespectful? But then you have those edges that some people have told me, no, I don't want to dance. I have said sometimes, no, I don't want to dance after dancing 45 minutes nonstop of people asking me. And the moment that you say no, they look at you and they're like, who do you think you are? We were talking about this with some of the artists at Viva la Bachata. And one of them told us a story that he was in Korea and a lady was like, this is your job. You like this is why I pay for a full pass so I can dance. You have to say yes.
Mm.
Did
And he
he say
was like,
no? Tell me he said no.
of he said no, and
Good.
he was drenched because when you dance for 30
Mhm.
minutes nonstop, you are drenched. You are sweating because you're usually wearing a button up, a blazer on top. Like I don't know how women do it because if I would put on makeup, my makeup would just be dripping all over me. Like guys, leaders are lucky, but whoever is wearing makeup. Sorry, I just
No.
keep getting phone calls.
Are you able to hear us?
But look, I lost the audio. I cannot hear you anymore.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. Amanda, thank you so much for making that video. We do in the bachata community are in agreement with you. With we have to find a way to communicate and to help beginners and people that are not taking classes into taking classes. So we all can grow and have a better experience dancing bachata. Trust me, we all want to just go and have fun with everybody. Uh, Diamond, thank you so much for the moment. I'll let you guys continue your conversation. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Peace. See, hey, Amanda, honestly, the one thing I could say I noticed was just kind of that joy, kind of that, like, hey, this is actually conducive. This is actually a great conversation
It's
because,
fun.
yeah, I mean, for me, again, is that I really appreciate that we can have these conversations because,
Absolutely.
again, if people don't know, they don't grow. I use that slogan a lot because we can say the sky is blue for years. Somebody can say the sky is green. But if we don't teach them why the sky is blue, they're always going to believe it's green. And so, for me, again, just being able to have this conversation with you, even having Vladi step in and talk was truly valuable because for me, I think coming out of this pandemic and having more and more events popping up, I think the improvements of us having conversations, having people feel more empowered to be like comfortable in their own skin, to make, as you may think, tough decisions for some and easier decisions for others. I think us doing this helps and it inspires others to make those changes within themselves.
Absolutely. Thanks
You know,
for having this, hosting the discussion. I think it's
of,
good for people
of
to talk.
course. And trust me, my thing is this: your experience means more than just a viral video. This dates back years, as you say. So again, here having you on the Let's Talk About It series, even though it's episode 2, this is right now. I'm still going to say it's going to be one of my most important conversations because it's been something going on for years. Even though you, of course, you're now moving on. You've moved on from bachata and into zouk, and the thing is, you found your love, and I appreciate that. I've met so many that have had different experiences, but again, the great
Yeah.
thing is we're all different in some capacity. We all learn from one another, and I appreciate you and your journey because again, we all just want to dance. We all just want to have a good time, and we all just don't want to get hurt. So I think is that the more and more we talk and have the balls and have the courage to actually speak about things we love, but also things we don't, I definitely think the community can grow from that.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know, Uh, and again, I really do appreciate you, Amanda. We definitely look forward to seeing you in the future. I'll be coming to the DC area in the future, and hopefully catch up with you, and keep these conversations going, enact some of this change. Because I'm already on talks with some organizers as you speak. They're messaging me, so again, I appreciate that you're coming on. But at least before we go, if anything you want to leave us with.
No, I just think if you take away anything from this video or this interview, is just be honest and don't be afraid and say what you think because it doesn't help anything not to. And Diamond, I'm really looking forward for your transition. I think you're the next one to cross over into the Zouk room. So I
Hey,
can't wait to see that.
of course, hey, everybody's been saying it. Don't get me wrong. I will go into Zouk. But
It's coming.
salsa is my number one love. It's salsa, bachata, then Zouk. So I'm learning everything. I'm a
Yeah,
videographer, but I'm a dancer at heart. And my thing is this: if I can help any community grow and become better than the day before, I'm here for that. If I'm gonna have a tough conversation one day and a really humble, nice conversation the next day, that's what it takes, great. Because 10, 20 years from now, people can no longer say nobody was talking about
Right.
so that's right there. We took that excuse.
Video documentation.
Yes, we have. Yes. So, for me, again, I appreciate you, Amanda. I would love to actually have you on in the future on the podcast, talking really about your journey in full, getting a little bit more knowledge on who you are than just one viral moment. Because, again, our lives are like onions, but most of all, thank you again for your time. I think everyone that's listened, I mean, at one point, not going to lie to you, we had over like 68 people watching live and commenting. The comments are crazy on Facebook right now. But again, Amanda, I thank you for your time. Looking forward to seeing you in the future. And again, everyone, stay safe. Please don't get hurt. And please enjoy and connect with your artists. The last thing you want is a bad dance. Again, this is Let's Talk About It. We're here with Amanda Grace. See you guys later. Till our next episode. Peace.